The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every week by sharing the stories and advice from those who are rocking it on the other side. This week we learned from Jason LaFlore. Jason is a creative director at 72andSunny. From grocery store manager to creating Super Bowl ads, we discuss Jason's career and, of course, advice. We learned that the world of advertising is smaller than you would expect. We learned how portfolio school was the right route for Jason. And we learned about the big Chicago advertising agencies and the importance of putting your perspective in your portfolio. So Jason is passionate about helping people break into advertising. Given his experience working on The Lost Class, which is one of the most awarded and impactful activations in modern advertising, and his work on Edgar Scissorhands for Mercedes, he has a range and credibility to teach you some tips and tricks. So hey, reach out to us on Instagram or on LinkedIn by searching Breaking and Entering Advertising. Connect with us, and then I'll be happy to connect you with Jason directly. Now on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast, and as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right. Jason LaFlore, welcome to Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. How you doing today?
Pretty good, man. How about yourself?
I'm good. It's President's Day. I think we're actually going to probably post this tomorrow.
Okay. All right.
So,
here, get in, get out.
That's how we do it around here. You got a great background, so people are check out our YouTube. You'll see that great background. But I'm excited to talk with you, Jason, about advertising. You ever talk about that before?
Once or twice.
Yeah.
Once or twice before. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We're here to talk about advertising because you're the creative director. You're a creative director at 72andSunny, and you're also an Adweek Creative 100. Is that correct?
It is. Got fortunate enough. Well, in both situations. So, yeah.
Yeah. 72andSunny, one of the best names for an agency. I was actually just talking about this with my dad. I was home this weekend and talking about you coming on about 72andSunny. Like, isn't that like the perfect name? Like, your relationship with your clients is 72andSunny. It's the perfect weather. Just the name itself. It's a beautiful name. And I also want to ask you, why the heck are you working in Chicago? If you're
Well, first off, yeah, the name is great. I think it's the first agency I've been at where I had to like kind of explain it to people. They're like 72 and like, the hell is that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, it's the perfect temperature for the human existence and and the whole thing. But anyway, it's clearly I'm drinking the Kool-Aid already. But I don't know, man. I love Chicago. It's a great city. I'm from St. Louis, so my family's still close, but not too close. So I can get home quickly if I need to.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they gave us the opportunity to work from home and still be part of the LA office. Then, it was like a no-brainer. So
what are your hours then? What are you logging on and logging off usually?
Man, that all depends on the day, honestly, man. I mean, the day honestly might still start at 7 or 9, depending on like what all is going on. But I guess a typical day, I'm not technically working until I guess 11, just because that's everybody starts. We'll just say people start around 9 on West Coast hours.
Makes
so
sense.
it does help that it's a nice ramp up to. I have a slow ramp up in the morning, like if I want to work out or just kind of like ease into my day. But honestly, a lot of times we still have stuff going on anyway. So my partner and I, since we're both still in Chicago and we're still working regular, like still 9 o'clock here,
right?
When we can get a hit on, then yeah, we're already texting at 9 a.m. or even earlier just to get going.
Who's your partner?
Matt Turnier. We actually used to we went to portfolio school together.
Mm-hmm.
We were like a quarter apart and went our separate ways when we got our jobs, and then got put together at FCB. And I guess that was probably 6-7 years ago, something like that. I don't remember. Yeah, maybe like 6 years ago. Yeah, so we've been together for a while now. Been rolling since.
Isn't that great? I mean, like, that's pretty impressive. And like no other industry, maybe that I know of, you really get like one other creative partner and you kind of stick through. You job search together. You're on most of the projects together.
I love that. I'm not a creative myself, but I I value that. I see that on the outside, like the great partners, and I kind of envy that myself. But
It is nice. It is nice having a sounding board, like, shooting ideas to somebody else and kind of having that back and forth. It's yeah.
yeah.
Partnership, cool.
So let's talk about where you're at today, and then we'll kick it back to how you got in all this.
All right.
Only about 72 and Sunny. I've had a couple people on from 72 and Sunny, but you're a creative director there. So tell me about why you're there. Tell me about what clients you're working on, why it's great, why it's not great. Just give me the high level rundown of this
Okay.
on your life.
Well, I'm there because it was just an opportunity that was kind of too tough to turn down. At the time, Matt and I were working at Leo, working on Wingstop. We had, done some great work with Lost Class for Change the Ref, and honestly, cheese. We were just working on whatever got thrown our way. Honestly, Wingstop finally became our actual client, but and even before that, originally with Cadillac. So been working on a few.
What was that big idea with Wingstop that won a bunch of awards, like the thigh stop? Was that it?
Yeah, thigh stop. That was before us. That was we got on after that. So I can't take credit for that one. But
you could have, but you didn't.
Oh no, you're not getting me caught up. But so yeah, but we were working on all that stuff and it was cool, but we had a good couple years of work. We kind of felt like there was some momentum we needed to kind of, drift off of. And this 72 opportunity came along. I think, we've been to 3 different agencies in Chicago. And it was like, man, get a chance to work somewhere else and not necessarily have to move because we both just bought houses here, married, it's kind of like, it's a bigger decision than just the 2 of us. So, when this one came about, had the opportunity to work from home full time. And the client being NFL, I work on NFL. Yeah, like that was the thing. It was like, oh,
did you
that's
do
cool.
that Super Bowl work?
No. Again, got in just too late. We tried to get there early enough, but there was already
NFL's a client. There's always a Super Bowl spot or a couple, probably.
That part didn't hurt. Knowing that. I mean, I feel like anytime you make a move in your career, you got to, try to look ahead a little bit of like, all right, where could this possibly put me? And knowing that NFL, it's the one brand is going to have a Super Bowl spot every year. Hey. So there's that.
Yeah.
And it was, so that Activision was another one that was, so it was like, no offense to Leo, but they just, we just didn't have those types of clients. And it was a great opportunity to try to check out. So we went for it.
Yeah. So you're working on NFL now. Like, what are your allocations?
NFL is, the allocation stuff is always weird. The 100%, but the 50 and 50, but you're really 100, like all that stuff.
100. Yeah.
Yeah. It really just means 100. So it's really NFL, working on a couple other clients at the moment because we just always want to try to stay busy. But NFL, we're kind of waiting because we got a brief coming up for that. There's some draft stuff coming up, and then
nice. What's the brief?
So don't know yet. We'll find out.
I always try.
Yeah. Appreciate you.
That's awesome. So NFL, you said a little bit of Activision. I mean, you're probably gonna meet some NFL players.
Already did. We shot some stuff for Pro Bowl. Quick shoot. I mean, it wasn't like,
who'd you meet?
But yeah, Peyton and Eli, worked with Josh Jacobs. I always forget that man's man. I'm sorry, other guy. Demario Moon. I think that's the name. Yep.
How are the Manning brothers? Awesome.
Yeah, they're cool. I mean, again, it was such a quick shoot and fast pace that like it was really just kind of like, hi, all right. So anyway, here's what we're doing. Seeing like there wasn't a whole lot of talking.
Yeah.
It was very much like, let's get to it.
I feel like they're in a lot of commercials, so they're probably they know what's going on.
Yeah. They very much were like, all right, let's get it. Let's hit these. But they, Peyton's done so many. They were fine. They were good. They got right to it. Got what we needed.
Nice. That's awesome. I can see how I think growing up personally, like in the Chicago ad scene, knowing the names of where have you been? You've been at Havas, where I'm
FCC.
at. That's probably the best agency ever, Havas, and then you went to FCB, and then Leo.
Yeah.
I mean, these are some top shops here in Chicago, mid to large size, relatively speaking, for the Chicagoland area. Those are the home runs. You want to get to those if you're creative, if you're a young creative. So looking back, I want to know how you got into all this.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Back, when did you say you wanted to create ads for a living, and how did that go over with your friends and family?
Yeah. Well, I guess it started, how many years I've been here? 11 years ago, whatever it was. But I was still living in Dayton, Ohio. I had just I graduated from college and at the time, I was working as a co-manager at a grocery store. For those who are familiar with Kroger, that's where I was at. I was working at Kroger as a co-manager. So I was the guy walking around with the shirt and tie and the slacks looking like, why is this guy wearing dress clothes in the grocery store? And like, I was the guy you came to complain to about your coupon not going through or something. So,
that's an ad, right?
So I did not necessarily enjoy it. Somehow I managed to get 3 years out of it. I don't think they realized how much I didn't like it. I was
Were you still in school, or how old were you? Out of school?
I was out of school. I had graduated. I had already tried a couple other jobs and like doing sales. Didn't really like that. But somehow because back for me, it was like, this wasn't even an industry like this. I didn't even know about it. It was like, you get a job, you're either in a cubicle somewhere or you're somebody's manager or like you know what I mean? Like you're going to the typical like job search websites and, putting your info in and getting like management trainee position. Like that's kind of where my head was of like, all right, I have a 4-year degree. Like these are the type of jobs I'm supposed to get. But like backtracking before all that, in college and high school and grade school, like I used to draw. Like I wouldn't call myself an artist, but I drew, I did creative things. Like in college, I would help with like doing promo videos for like any parties we had for my fraternity. Or just, I was painting stuff for people. Like I was just creative, but didn't realize that might have actually been, didn't know that I could make a job out of it. But anyway, to get to how I got into it, a friend of mine told me about it. Like he got an internship at Wyden somehow. Still don't know how he got it. But he got an internship at Wyden, I think on the account side, actually. And he hit me up like, yo, I think this is what you might want to do, man. Like advertising could be a good look for you. Like you can still be yourself. Like you can bring your creative energy, your thinking, and get paid for it. And I was like, all right, so what I got to do? And he was like, you need to get a book though. Like you got to get a portfolio. And from there, I just kind of went about what I needed to do. The funny thing, there's actually a funny story behind it. I was dating my now wife. We were just dating at the time, and she lived in Chicago. I told her about all this, and she was very much like she knew I wanted to leave Dayton anyway. So she was like all in. She was like, okay, cool. Let me do anything I can to try to like motivate this guy to make sure he does leave and come to Chicago and we can be together and he can have a better life and all that stuff.
You guys were doing like a little bit long distance.
Yeah.
Sounds awful.
Yeah, it wasn't great. I wasn't in a great place at the time. Like I was just kind of going through the motions of life. But she ended up so here I am trying to get in. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I just know I want to get into advertising. I'm looking up jobs like I mentioned before. I'm applying for creative director jobs. I have no idea how any of this works.
I love those stories.
Yeah, so I'm applying for creative director jobs like I'm really going to get them. I don't even know what I was filling in. Like I don't even understand how I got through the first part of it. Anyway, I get some email from some company, and they're like, "Hey, we want to interview you." Get in. So they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna do a video call." So I like throw on I think I had on a tie, but I like throw on something professional looking.
Yeah.
And they're like, but in the email they're like, "Hey, we're not going to our video's not working." And our audio, something's wrong with our audio, but we're going to like text you the questions and you just reply. So I'm like, okay, this is a weird interview, but maybe this is like some hazing. Like, I don't know. Sorry, this is a long-winded story, but this all makes for And so I go through this whole interview. They're asking questions, and so I believe. Like typing these questions out, I'm answering. They're like, all right, great. That was a great interview. We'll get back to you. Never hear anything else. Right? Turns out, I find out years later that was my wife had like created this whole like fake little email and everything, like just trying to like get me, I guess that motivation to like kind of keep going at it and trying to, not feel like I was defeated because I wasn't hearing from anybody, and just trying to do whatever she could to keep me on that path of like, hey, this is something you should really look into, trying to switch your career up.
That is the best I've ever heard in my entire life.
So I was like, wow, you're an amazing woman. You might be crazy, but you also are an amazing woman.
And then she didn't say that until years later, or
I forget how it even came together. I think it may have just been me realizing, like, hold up, no one would have ever called me back. Like once I got into advertising, like once I had been through portfolio school and all that, like getting into at Havas and all that, like realizing, like, wait a minute, no one would have ever called me.
Oh my goodness!
Also, that's a ridiculous interview.
But it worked. It kept you motivated, and you're like, I got one, and now I can keep going, right? Yeah.
And from there, I ended up applying to portfolio school, moved to Chicago, went to CPS, Chicago Portfolio School, and like, got an internship at Havas. I hired full time. Like things just kept rolling after that. So
the portfolio school is something I want to talk about. I think like you didn't have a book, and you studied communications, right? I see you looking at the LinkedIn. Yeah, I was, and that was only because I needed to have I had to graduate with something. Right.
They were like, yeah, you need to pick a major. I was like, well, what do I have the most credits towards? It was communications.
Right. And they didn't teach you, or maybe you didn't learn about, or you weren't looking for like the advertising specifically.
Nope. I took like one or two marketing classes.
Sure.
But nothing that was like truly ad focused.
Gotcha. And your friend working at Wyden as an intern, it doesn't get much better than that too. I mean, that's a great place.
Yeah. He ended up making cool work there too. Like he ended up switching over to being a creative, and like, he did all right for himself.
Who's that? You want to give him a shout out?
Yeah. That's my boy Rob Lewis. Man, he's very low key, so he'll probably be like, don't say my name out loud. But yeah, he's a good dude. I always give him his flowers as the person who like put me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out Rob. Gotcha. So the portfolio school thing was because you didn't have a book, you didn't really know too much until Rob called you up and said, you got to get over here, you got to start doing advertising. So what drew you to portfolio school? Like, did you, at the time, were you, after not hearing about applications, right, except for that fake one, like I probably need to go to portfolio school. What was your thought process behind that rationale?
Well, it was like, all right, I need to learn how to do this stuff. I'm not trying to do 2 years.
Yeah.
Like I knew I wasn't trying to go to like school. Like I didn't want to go to like an actual, like accredited, like graduate program. I was not.
Center.
Yeah. I wasn't trying to spend that much money or spend that much time, honestly. And in my research, I found there were like a couple places that had 1 year options, one of which was in Chicago. So I was like, well, shoot, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So that's how I found out about Chicago Portfolio School. And then the money thing, I was like, well, I got to figure that out because they didn't have any scholarships or anything like that. So I ended up writing up like a whole proposal to my aunt, because my aunt's a doctor out in California. And I was like, well, she doesn't have any kids and she might have a little extra scratch for her one nephew.
Yeah.
So, like she loves me a lot. So I like had this whole, wrote up this whole reason of why this made sense for me and why I wanted this so bad and all that. I think that the return on her investment has come through pretty well. But at the time, my family was like, they were supportive. They were like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
But you've also never really wanted anything professionally like this before. So we're behind you.
Nice.
But yeah, hit her up. She was like, yeah, I would love to pay for that for you. So I was very blessed in that situation. And yeah, from there, just thankfully I got into portfolio school and hit the ground running.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And that led to making a book. You met your now partner, your creative partner, correct?
Yep. Yeah. I don't think we ever worked together while we were there. Yeah, we never had any assignments together. It was like, oh, you're cool. You're cool. Kept in touch a little bit, but didn't really we really didn't talk until we got hired together. I think we had like a couple times we chatted here and there, but for the most part, yeah, we had whole other advertising lives that did not involve one another.
Yeah, but the network is still there. And that's so important. Like, as you're in, like, if you go to portfolio school or you're doing these programs or you're starting networking early on, you might be working with these people in the Twitter or LinkedIn groups that you're in or whatever these networks are. You got to be careful. Like, it's a small world. You're going to be working with these people all the time.
Dude, that's like one of my first pieces of advice for students. It's like, just like work hard, learn your craft, get better at it, like, do all that stuff. But like, be a decent person, man. Like, because you don't realize how small, people always say this industry is small, but you don't realize just how small it is until you're like actually in it. Yeah. Like, the reason I even got that job, the reason either of us even got that job was because someone knew the creative director who the guy who would then be our creative director was like, hey, I know a couple guys. You say you need a couple seniors. I know a guy, or I know a couple guys who might work out pretty well for you. So like, you never know. So
exactly.
Don't be careful.
And I'll tell you what, sometimes I get a little like, I get pretty mean sometimes or stressed out. Like, it might seem like I have to be careful too. Like, and it's easier said than done sometimes. This job is stressful.
Yeah.
And sometimes like I get overwhelmed. Like, I'm only like 2 years in the actual advertising agencies world. It's hard work. And sometimes I forget, like, I got to be kind and like, we're doing this as a fun job. I have to remind myself, like, relax a little bit. Don't be so stressed out. Like, sometimes if I haven't had coffee and it's early in the morning, I'm in the office, like I can brush past people and come off a little abrasive. I don't actually mean it, but it happens sometimes to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. Especially now with us not being with one another as much anymore. Like, it's tough to kind of get that, like in person, you may be able to like better decipher, oh, it's just early in the day for him. He just needs a little time to like, exactly. But when it's just a call and that's your only interaction, it can be a little tougher to try, to monitor how you come off to people. But,
yeah. Maybe I need to take a couple like best management classes or something like that.
Yeah, no, man, you got to get a job out west. So by the time you're on calls, you're like, chill.
Yeah. Not a bad call. But yeah, small world. So back to the portfolio school, that led you to your internship. So how was your book though? Like, as you were shopping around for your first job, were you proud of it? Did you have a couple campaigns? What did that consist of? What'd you learn from portfolio school that can help out these kids today that's listening?
I felt pretty good about my book, honestly, man. Looking back, there was some stuff that probably wasn't amazing. But there's still like a couple ideas in there that I stand behind. And like, I curated it to my personality. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I didn't shop it. It didn't get shopped around too much because like I had just finished it before portfolio night. And that's where I met people from Havas and got an internship out of that. So I didn't get a chance to see just how well it worked across, the ad school, whatever. But no, I felt good about it. I'm a big fan of Doug. That was my show growing up as a kid. So I like curated all my thumbnails to look like the Doug handwriting, like the Doug font, like recreated that and had the different characters popping out of the corners and all that kind of stuff. So at least it stood out in that extent. Even if you didn't love the content, it at least had something that was like, oh, that's different. Like I made Doug look like me.
Oh, nice.
Had my dog and all, like did the whole thing. So like, I felt good about that. The content was straight, it was an ad. It was a portfolio school book. So,
It does not look like a portfolio school book now. It looks amazing right now.
Oh, well, thanks. This is like 4.0 or something.
And they know that they should know that it's a work in progress forever.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the advice that I got so that I will give to students now is one that I got from like my favorite teacher in portfolio school. He was like, yeah, I'm looking at your book so far. And he's like, I know you're good. And I know that you know what you're doing. Or he was like, and I just know like who you are as a person. Cause I teach you, I see you all the time. He's like, but I don't see you in your book. And that was when I was like, oh, okay, all right, let me figure out a way to like show more of me. And to me, that meant doing the thing, like changing how it looked to, kind of represent my interests and where, I guess my personality and even the work that was in there, like things that mattered to me. Like you should have stuff in there that represents the kind of work you want to make and the kind of person you are. I don't think you wouldn't, if you're not trying to make a bunch of ATM screens for a living, you probably shouldn't have a bunch of work in your book that's all ATM screens. Like that's just, you're going to attract the kind of employers that you want based on what's in your book.
Gotcha. So are you even referring to like the spec campaigns that you work on at the time? Like,
yeah,
careful about the executions you pick.
Yeah. Like, if you want to do some really cool, like app focused work, or like digital work, like throw some stuff in there that shows the way you think in those terms, if you want to do really like interesting activations, like and stunts and stuff like that, put some work in your book that shows how you think in that way.
Yeah.
I think the one place where, I would say maybe don't focus is like script writing. You're probably not going to be an amazing script writer out of portfolio school. And it's just tough to kind of show what you're thinking in a quick, portfolio without actually filming things and all that. So, I mean, if you're a person that could pull that off and make a really cool little short, then great. Most people can't. So like, that's the one place where I'm usually like, all right, maybe,
okay.
Don't feel pressure to have to show that you're some amazing like script writer. Cause like even my partner, he was like, dude, I didn't know how to write a script till like a couple years in to like actually working. Like when I really started to understand how to put one together.
Okay. That's good to know.
They're just, like I said, they're just tough to kind of
get there.
Yeah. They're just, it's as someone looking at a book, it's tough for me to be like, oh, that's what there's like. I just don't think it's going to be tough to try to figure that out early on. So I wouldn't put all attention there, but anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So then what happened? How'd you get hired?
Man, I was, Havas had done, I don't know how they do it now, but back then Havas was like finding people on Instagram. Like they were putting all their, there was an internship coming up. Yeah. They were doing, the challenge was all via Instagram.
Yep.
But when they went live for their summer internship that year, my book wasn't ready. So I was like, I'll just wait. It's all right. But then I had portfolio night. My book was ready. I met with, was it 2 or 3 people from Havas? I think 3. Yeah, it was, no, 2. Anyway, met with some folks from Havas, and like during the whole interview, I don't know, sometimes you can just tell that like you're like, oh, this is going well. I was like, I think they're feeling me. Like, yeah, the vibe is here. So, once that got done, they emailed me like the next day, like, hey, we got an open spot for an internship here. We'd love to have you come. It's like, all right, say less. Like, and the funny thing is, the only reason that spot even happened, a lot of my career has been like things kind of like falling into place.
Of course.
Mixed with the hard work. Like they always say, what is it? I forget what the saying is, but something about like
preparation is where hard.
Exactly.
Yeah. Where hard work.
Preparation or whatever. Yeah. As cliche as it is, I would say it actually has worked out that way in my life. But like a classmate of mine, she got that internship, an art director. Nice. But she turned it down because she found a full-time job. So like it worked out perfectly that like she was like, no, I don't want it. And then they were like, oh, well, we got an open spot for you. So that's how I got in. And I started working on Dish Network, like making banner ads, like trying anything I could to try like show that I was conceptual, even with the banner ads, because I was like, I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do for a living. Mm. But I also knew that like as a junior, you're gonna do some of the grunt work, like starting off. That's just how it is. The pecking order.
Why the portfolio that you create, and like whether or not you go to portfolio school, like you're gonna be you're probably gonna be riding off that for another year or 2 after you graduate or you have that. So it's gotta be super strong because like the grunt work that you're talking about, like the banner ads, the coupon ads. I don't know if they do those anymore, but like you're gonna be doing some smaller work for that first year, probably.
100%.
Depends. Right now, Havas right now, just to let you know, like as an update for everybody, like it's a great starting spot because the way Myra runs it is really any it's a lot of open briefs.
Mhm.
So ideas can come from anywhere in the agency, and it's relatively like mid-size. So you can get a lot of great visibility. I don't know how that works at every agency, but for the most part, you're going to be running off your portfolio for like a year or two that you created in college.
I mean, unless you're someone that's just out of this world, you're probably not going to have anything for a little bit. So you got to hope that make sure the stuff you got in your book is like shows who you are and the kind of thing you got.
After that, so did they hire you after that internship full time?
Yeah, they hired me full time. The internship came up and they were like, "Yeah, we're keeping you." Yeah,
and that's it. And that's pretty much the standard. I don't know if standard is hard to say, but for creatives, and you tell me, like you usually kind of have to do an internship after you graduate a portfolio school, undergrad, or wherever you're transferring. It's usually the first stepping stone. Would you say that's correct, or is that not so much the case?
I feel like it's changing a little bit now. 8 years ago, I'd have been like, "Yeah, you got to do an internship and then the thing." But now, I don't know. I feel like it might not be as strict with that. I feel like people are getting junior positions more now, not having an intern all the time. But that's definitely still a part of it for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm also not hanging out with enough juniors to know how they're getting it.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's changing a little bit to where it's not as much as the typical goes. But
it's kind of nice though to and argue, like, of course, everybody that wants to graduate to undergrad or portfolio school, of course, you're gonna want to find a full-time job right after. Your parents, you find a full-time job after. Whoever is looking after you wants to find a full-time job after. But the only other argument, the bright side of it is like, hey, you get to check them out too. Like if you don't like it, you're not committing to that. You can dip out after that internship. You still got the experience, but you might realize that place not for you.
That is very true. That's a way of looking at it for sure. And honestly, man, at least for my internship, like I was hourly, so I was like, well, shoot, I'm working this then, man. I'm here whenever you need me.
For the extra hour.
I need that extra money, and also for you to see that I'm down to work.
Good.
So yeah, at least that's what I'll say is an advantage to, even though you may not get the kind of full-time stability and money, it's like, shoot, if it's an hourly one, work that thing, man.
Yeah, for sure. And then later on in your career, can you just like go through like those top like campaign moments, like those big breakthroughs in your career? It can be chronological, or you can just call out ones that come to mind. Obviously, Change of the Ref, Lost Class has been a highlight. It's at the top of the portfolio right now. But like, you tell me, like, what were those and what were those lessons from it? How'd you get there? I'll let you run the show for the rest of this right now.
All right. Let's see. Breakthrough moments. I would say like Havas had a couple, just as far as like breakthrough, just because it like helped me get some validation as far as my career, even if the stuff didn't like blow up. Like did a thing, this like installation at the office called Black at Work that got a little press. So that was pretty cool because like that was something that there was no client involved. So it was really just me and the team that I was working with, like our ideas and getting this created exactly how he wanted it. And to see it get picked up, that was dope. And then leaving there, I would say at FCB, working on Michelob, it was cool to like, that was my first like, well, I worked on Coke, on like Sprite and everything down in Atlanta for a little bit when I was at Havas, but there was some social center stuff. Yeah, for the social center. That was cool. Like that was a great experience too. But at the same time, like no one really saw anything. So I didn't really feel like, I don't know. I felt like I was learning a lot, but at the same time, it wasn't reciprocated in the way as far as like famous work. But the Michelob was cool because like, it was my first time like being on a brand where it felt really high stakes. Like they were doing Super Bowl every year. And that was like the first time in my career where I was like, yo, trying to get a Super Bowl spot. Like this is like everybody in ad school. When you're in portfolio school, that's just the thing. It's like, yo, one day I'm going to have a Super Bowl spot. It's the thing in advertising, as we all know.
And you did.
Which right. And so that's like that moment. And that one was cool because it took us 2-3 years for it to happen. like we were working Michelob full time. So we're doing all the daily stuff, but then the Super Bowl brief would come in every year and the entire agency gets to touch it.
Yeah.
So there was that whole thing of like, man, it would be nice if I could, like it kind of sucked because you're doing all the daily stuff and you're trying to present ideas that like, cause you know the brand better than anybody else, but that's actually kind of hurting you because when people come in with stuff that's different, right? They're like, oh yeah, that's amazing. You're like, you would never let us do that. Like, you've never let us do that when we're bringing those ideas before. So yeah, for like 2 years, we were like right at the end, like one of the last scripts in the running. And then for people who don't know, like Super Bowl, it's usually something that either lasts for like a bunch of months or it's like very last minute as far as the preparation for it, depending on the client and the situation. But so we're looking at like, 4 or 5 months of like script writing and coming back and all this stuff. And finally, that third year when we got off the brand, we managed to crack it. And it was like a super rewarding moment as a creative, like seeing all the hard work you would put in, then getting to do an ad that everyone's going to see. Even if no one remembers it 2-3 years later, it's still like you saw it that day.
And this was
Jimmy
Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon. Sorry, Kimmel. Sorry, Fallon. Yeah, the Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah. Jimmy Fallon, not a fan of working out. And then it was only worth it if you enjoy it. John Cena. You had Usain Bolt, I believe.
Yeah. He was in there. The Roots were in there. Like it was a Super Bowl spot. Like it had all the big names and a bunch of stuff going on. So
you wrote that, or you and your partner created that, but it wasn't until after they put you off Michelob.
Yeah. We were like, because we were kind of feeling burnt out because we had been on it for a couple of years, and it was frustrating when it's like, yo, we're doing all the daily stuff, but then we felt like we weren't able to really like come at it in a different way when it came time for the Super Bowl. So we were like, let's just get on something else, try something new, and then we can approach these with a fresh mind.
That's like a larger creative like lesson though. Like even if you're like stumped on one solution or one problem, or if you're feeling burnt out, like stepping away from it.
Yeah.
And coming back and going on a walk, taking a shower, whatever it may be, or even like taking a weekend, not thinking at all, like really kind of activates your subconscious.
Yeah.
So
like
it's kind of like what happened there.
That's literally how it happened. Yeah. And then there was another team. It was us and then another team. So it was really 4 creatives plus, everyone that was above us working on that to get together. And honestly, we needed all 4 of us because it was crazy. Like it was a lot going on. But yeah, so that one was a big moment. And then that helped us get to the next step of like getting over to Leo and then the Cadillac spot with
was
like really big. That was a really big moment for us too.
That one was hilarious. It still is.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So that was huge. And then of course the change, like, so yeah, those are the big ones. Like those are the ones that like really get me, excited about, I don't know, just where my career could keep going, I guess, and keep me motivated of like, all right, it's great to get that success, but like, what's next? Let's get some more. Let's get some more wins.
Yep. It kept you hungry. It's kind of like golf. I'm so bad at golf. I don't know if you're a golfer, but like, I'm always hitting balls bad. And then every once in a while I hit one decent and it keeps me coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, numbers wise, that's how advertising, how being a creative is for sure. I mean, because I don't know what percentage of the ideas we come up with you would say we make, but it's a very low percentage.
Right.
Like, it's like
when you get one that sells and is produced well and it's received well, I'm sure that's probably like addicting and like you want that. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask you then, looking back, everybody listening right now, I know that we're running low on time here, but go into your website, jasonlaflore.com. You can see, and you have it beautifully laid out, super simple. It's actually like a really great template. I don't know how you made this, but I want to talk to you about that later. Check out like all the work. Lost Class is something you need to know if you're not already studying it. Jason, I'm probably gonna be honest with you. Your work is probably getting taught in classrooms in undergraduate advertising education. That's pretty. Isn't that cool to think about?
It is cool. It's weird, but yeah, it is cool.
Yeah. I think everybody listening here should go study this portfolio site and just learn and get inspired. Even the GLAD I love the Glad work too, with the new trash bags. Like, it's just a fun way to sell trash bags. Like, you would think that would be hard or not fun or not interesting, but you guys figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, thanks. Nah, man, it's a credit to. I feel like we've been fortunate to work with some really good people.
Yeah.
My partner, of course. Like, I feel like I don't know, we just work well together, and then having bosses who believe in us, and we have an opinion on something, like taking us seriously and letting us rock. Really, I feel like that's the thing. Another thing I would tell people is just like trying to find those people who are championing for you. Like that's going to help you a lot too. Obviously, you got to champion for yourself, but like within that, finding those folks who are, you find you got a boss that you can tell kind of rocks with you like that. Like, all right, make it mutually beneficial for the two of you.
Yeah. Stay loyal too, like those people. Like, put in extra work and express your gratitude and let them know that you're having fun and you're really enjoying it. Like,
dude, we've taken on many assignments in the past that maybe we weren't excited to do, but because it was someone who had looked out for us, or a boss who like, we knew had our best interests, like, all right, yeah, we'll help you out with this.
Absolutely.
Could have easily been like, no, we have no bandwidth, we're way too busy. But like those little, like I said before, man, those little connections really do matter in this industry a lot.
Amazing. And speaking of connections, if our listeners want to say hi, talk with you, maybe do a portfolio review, what's the best way to do that? Is that an option for them?
Yeah. I'm always down to help. Especially, I'll help anybody, but I mean, especially like creatives of color, man, like Black creatives, but like all like that is a passion for me, because we all know there's not many of us in the industry, and I'm all about trying to get as many of us in here as possible. Not to say I'm not trying to help anybody, but like that is for sure. Like if you fall in that category, definitely reach out. But yeah, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. All my stuff is there. I have a pretty easily Googleable name.
Yeah. And I'll make the connections too. Like, if they can reach out to me, if they want to reach out to you, I can make that connection as well.
Yeah. Always down to help.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I have no more questions for you, Jason. We went through a lot, went through your career, 72andSunny, your advice along the way. I think this has been really helpful. I know we can talk for hours about your career and your advice, but we'll leave it there. And cool. I'll make those connections. But I really, really appreciate you coming on, and we'll have to meet up in Chicago at some point.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm down with that, man. Grab a drink or something, or if you don't drink, tea work, coffee works.
All right, thanks, Jason.
Cool, man. Appreciate it. Peace. Yep.
Thank you so much for listening to this entire episode of the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. If you like what you heard, it would mean a lot to us and help us grow and get better guests and better break-ins if you can go to Apple Podcasts and leave us 5 stars and a small review if you have the time. Be sure to connect with our guests if you like what they said by going to our Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod. That's all one word, Breaking and Entering Pod on Instagram. We have links to their portfolios and their LinkedIn, and they want to connect, so do that. And thank yous. Thank you to Mikey Malarkey, our audio engineer, and Buchan Jung, our creative director. Can't do without you two, and a team from the University of Illinois. It's a student team from the agency called AdBuzz. They're a PR agency, and it's been a pleasure working with them. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next week with another amazing guest.